The Fortress, a short story. Chapter 8 and 9. Keys. Dizzy walked through his berry bush construction zone after lunch, attempting to reignite an old plan. There was a coffee can of old nails filled with water. He dumped the can, the nails all turned black. He found the hammer Father always looked for, a massive carpenter's claw hammer with a blue fiberglass handle and hard rubber grip. It was stashed in a shoebox for heavy work boots, under some scraps of wood. He had been away from his project too long, the shoebox swollen and split, the hammer showing surface rust that stained the thick cardboard. Dizzy pulled it up from under the soggy scraps, almost a sledgehammer in his small hands, and held it like a knight holding a broadsword. Dizzy wouldn't hide the hammer but for Father locking the shed. Keeping his son out of his tools was often to the point of shaming the boy. Father would come home over the weekend and notice some tools missing from his shed or left out in the weather. Tired from the 6-hour drive, Father simply picked the tools up and set them in the shed. The family dinner was a weekly event, every Saturday. Dizzy, always enthusiastic when Father was home, sat up to the table to explain some of his construction ideas or tell a story he made up during one of his forays through the woods. Father sat and listened. When nothing else was said, Father circled around the issue of his tools being missing or out in the weather, with stories of his own from his week at work. The one guy I work with, Gary, he got busted stealing tools. Just a few pliers and some screwdrivers. The cops came and strip searched him in front of everyone. Oh yes, right there in public. Poor Gary looked like he'd been run over by a truck. I remember that well. There was an old couple getting gas right there. I remember the old lady sitting in the car, hiding in her seat from all the big cops all over the place. One of the cops gave Gary a good bonk on the head and gave him a split lip. Father stared down at his plate. He didn't look anyone in the eye, telling an obvious lie. He spoke slowly, deliberately, moving the words with the motion of the fork into the meat and potatoes. There Gary was, on the ground, stark naked, bleeding, handcuffed, begging to be forgiven, all for a pair of pliers. Father pressed the fork into the tough meat. Never saw anything like it. Hoped never to see it again. Mother glared at Father. Dizzy looked at Father in guilty amazement. Such a story was just like from the television. If the tools were missing, I might have to go into town to talk with the police. If there's a thief in the area, stealing tools, the cops will want to know. Father sliced another chunk of meat off and ate it. There is no such thief. Mother snapped her fork on the edge of her plate. I'm here all the time, and I never see anyone messing with your precious tools. I'm a day's drive from home. I can't be here to protect the family, and you can't be everywhere at once. And if someone got work closer to home, it wouldn't be such an issue. Sometimes you can't help where you get work. Among things Dizzy was mystified about, in spite of his childlike youth, the drama between mother and father was the most stressing. Why was there never a moment between them, a hug, or embrace, or kiss, that he observed with other parents when they thought they were alone? These bursts of temper appeared to be the only intimacy mother and father allowed themselves. Regardless, when mother went into the shed for a hammer and nails, or a saw or screwdriver, Dizzy was quick to take the opportunity, rating what tools he thought he might need before the doors were barred for the rest of the week. Father compromised. One more week. If it happened again, finding a tool left in the grass or out in the mud, the shed would be locked for good. If the tools were never discovered, but for them being missing, Dizzy was partially in the clear for his guilt. As long as Father didn't find them, in the grass or in the mud, under a winter coat of rust, he assumed Mother was using them. A hammer, a needle-nose pliers for pulling at wires and bent nails. Dizzy had his own little toolbox hid away in one of his dirt holes, marked with a little red flag. The long blue-handled hammer was a favorite, the narrow head and sharp claw as good as a pickaxe. Dizzy had few chances to use it, once caught using the hammer to dig a hole. It was such a big ordeal over a small hole. When Dizzy first discovered the blue-handled hammer, among the several Father had scattered in the cramped shed, he gave it a swing to test its power. His tiny hands hadn't strength to keep it from flying out of his hands. It crashed against 2 coffee cans filled with recycled nails. He panicked over making the mess, scrambling to collect the nails. There was satisfaction, still, taking his time to scrounge through the mess for nails he could straighten, certain sizes and length with just the right nail heads. Dizzy found a 3-foot-long cut of 2x4, laying the bent nails against the grain, carefully tapping the nails straight. Dizzy found the perfect hammer for the job, a short ball peen with the right balance. Special tools were hard to find in the shop, Father keen to hide tools found missing before. When Dizzy found one hiding spot, Father made another. Mr. Fly. Bean soup and garlic bread. Mother set the soup pot out on a block of wood. Dear Sister Cindy was having a hot dog. She loathed soup. Sister Cindy was as scarce as Father, but in a good way. The neighbors across the road were babysitters, and there was always a swirl of children in the yard playing with a variety of bright, colorful toys. Cindy was always over there. Mother walked Cindy across the highway with a satchel of fresh canned goods or fresh vegetables from the garden, a fair exchange for keeping Cindy entertained. When a bout of chickenpox came through, Cindy was barred from the neighbors. She didn't like it and made sure to let everyone know of her dissatisfaction. After a few days, she grew interest in her own bedroom and her own toys. After a week, Dizzy realized how much he missed the silence. Dinner time was always a challenge. One time, Mother tied Cindy to her chair until the little girl ate her soup. Cindy sat at the table for 2 hours. After the crying, there were the excuses that soup made her sick and gave her headaches. After a while, 2 flies buzzed around the cold soup. Cindy filled the buzzing noise with dialogue, as if she were playing with her dolls. "Hello, Mr. Fly. What is this stuff?" "Human stuff, Miss Fly. They call it soup." "Soup? You sure it's not poop?" "I know what poop is. You do too, Miss Fly." "What is soup?" "It's runny meat and stuff." "We like stuff." "Not this stuff. It makes little girls sick." "But we're not little girls." "But we have delicate little wings like angels, and little girls are angels." "So we don't eat it?" "Not at all." Mother came into the kitchen. "But flies eat poop. If little girls and flies are angels, they eat the same thing." Mother looked down at the stagnant bowl of soup. She took the bowl away. "Now I know what to make you." Both mother and daughter were tired, several hours after Cindy's bedtime. Cindy wasn't sure to laugh, cautiously watching as Mother prepared Cindy her new favorite dinner. Cindy stuck her chin up in mock defiance. "Yes, I'd like some poop." In a few minutes, Mother handed her a small plate with a hot dog on a bun. "Here's your poop." Mother relented. Cindy won. The flies were fed. Dizzy listened through the walls, the dead silence in the house making any whisper as loud as a shout. He huddled in his bed until he fell asleep, glad he wasn't a fly.